Salam Sejahtera and welcome to another edition of Perception, where we discuss current issues that are daily topics of concerned discussion among multicultural Malaysians of all walks of life. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic of discussion today is why we must stop Lynas. And to discuss this subject, we have with us none other than Yang Berhormat Puan Fuzia Saleh, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kuantan. YB, on behalf of TV Pass, I thank you for being with us on this edition of Perception.
Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
YB, Mitsubishi Chemicals was the corporate merchant of radioactive death in Bukit Merah. Is Australia's Lynas the corporate merchant of radioactive death in Kuantan and the surrounding areas?
In a way, you can say so. Why? Because it is not only, how do you say, a radioactive death for the people. Not only in terms of health. It will be not a quick death either. It will be a long, torturous death. It will first affect the economy. The economy will be dead. It will affect the quality of life because people will have perception that Kuantan is dangerous to go to as a tourist destination. All the businesses, the chalets, the hotels around that area will lose business. It is a sanctuary for the turtles. It is a sanctuary for a few protected species in Gebeng. We have a mangrove swarm there. We have a seafood industry, the keropok lekor, the ikan bakar. All these will suffer first before you see the physical illness. Because as if you understand, radioactive waste from Lynas will be low level but long life. Thorium and uranium, thorium especially, is low level. It is alpha. So the effect will be over a long period of time. You will not see instant death, but a lot will suffer on the economy, the quality of life, people's perception, the Kuantan itself as a vibrant tourist destination will suffer, and eventually after a long period, then only you will see how the health will suffer.
YB, public perception is that Lynas' presence in Kuantan is clear evidence that Australia is a mere global imposter in relation to its environmental as well as public health and safety concerns. They won't allow this nonsense of processing radioactive rare earth in Australia, but they have no qualms of allowing an Australian corporation to destroy the environment, endanger innocent lives, and jeopardize public health public safety in another country. How do you view it?
You have to understand that the Australian government is responsible to their public. They are responsible to, and they want to remain in power, and they have very strong human rights group, environmental group over there, and they have to subscribe to the requirements of the public. That is why they're quite happy to get rid of their thorium and radioactive waste here in Malaysia. I mean, and their excuse is that Lynas is a corporation, and as a government, they cannot stop their corporation from investing anywhere else in the world. So, I don't blame the Australian government as much as I blame the Malaysian government. We are the one responsible for inviting Lynas here.
So, public perception goes this way. YB, Lynas in Kuantan is more of the utter stupidity of PM Najib and UMNO BN in allowing this Australian environmental hypocrisy to transform Kuantan into the radioactive waste dump of Southeast Asia. Is that how it goes?
It is utter stupidity, yes. You can repeat that again, and you can repeat that many, many times. Rare earth refinery is something which is very alien. I mean, Gebeng is an industrial center. We have chemical plants. We have best practice for chemical plants. But rare earth refinery, at the moment, there does not exist any outside China. We do not have a benchmark. We do not have best practice. We have proposals on best practice, one in the US and one in Australia. I doubt if the Malaysian government, Najib's administration, did any research on that. So, and Lynas has been misleading all this while. Lynas have always spoken that rare earth is a strategic industry, and thus that explains why MITI gave them the 12 years tax holiday. So, not only stupidity, but also ignorance and the whole system that does not look into further details of the refinery.
YB, would you consider the RM 800 million in Lynas investment as foreign direct investment which Malaysia should be proud to attract? Or is it fatal debt investment which all Malaysians should vehemently and affirmatively say no?
I do not understand how Malaysia can justify on this investment. Number one, Lynas Corporation is wholly owned by Australia. Number two, it does not pay tax. It enjoys a tax holiday, a strategic pioneer status for 12 years. Malaysia does not benefit a single cent from the 8 billion ringgit of export value of the rare earth oxide. And number three, Lynas, Lynas Advanced Material Plant will only attract 350 jobs. So I do not see how the Malaysian government can actually justify that this is foreign direct investment will benefit. What we get is just the honor of being a dumping ground. So risk versus benefits, there is none for us here.
YB, UMNO BN under Mahathir blatantly lied to the riot in allowing the Bukit Merah operations to unleash its radioactive havoc. Is UMNO BN under Najib also lying to the riot of Pahang in respect to promoting Lynas in Gebeng and Kuantan?
They are lying, and they are getting smarter at lying, because with the Bukit Merah issue, they said that it is nothing to be compared to Lynas. They explained that Lynas will use the most modern technology compared to Bukit Merah. In a way, they accepted that Bukit Merah was wrong. They accepted the blunder there. But then again, they justify Lynas by saying that Lynas will use the most modern technology. But this is what Lynas tells them. And it is because, as I said earlier, we do not have a benchmark. We do not have a best practice. How do they know that Lynas will comply? How do they know that what Lynas is doing is the best practice? How do they know that Lynas is not using or adopting the China standards, or what China is doing? And I have evidence that Lynas is going to use the China standards.
YB, that comes to the next question. Public perception is that Lynas is an ominously sinister and ruthless corporate merchant of radioactive death because its plant is no more than 2 to 3 kilometers from residential areas, when they are fully aware that in Australia, even to extract the rare earth, it is mandatory for the operations to be 35 kilometers from residential areas. Could you care to comment?
Lynas knows that, but they are taking advantage of our lax and environmental laws. We do not have such laws. Why does Lynas have to bother about the Malaysians? They don't care about the Malaysians. They have the license to operate in Australia. They have the license to build a refinery in Australia. But why do they choose to build in Malaysia? They gave excuses. They gave excuses that we are better in infrastructure. But however, it is our fault again for inviting them. If we had not given them the permission to construct and build in Malaysia, they wouldn't be there right now. So the issue is, we have lax environmental laws. We have loopholes in the laws. We are not capable of regulating a project as big as LAM, which will be the biggest refinery outside China once it is in operations. So what I'm saying is that Lynas is really taking advantage of the whole loopholes in our system, and Lynas will be laughing to the bank.
YB, given the tragic Bukit Merah episode, is there no remorse, no learning curve in UMNO BN's governance on matters like this?
I do not see that, because every time I raise the issue up in Parliament, they will say that it is not something to be compared with. They say that Bukit Merah was different and that Lynas is different.
YB, we will take a short break now. To our respected audience, we trust you will be with us when we return to continue our discussion why we should stop Lynas with Yang Berhormat Puan Fuzia Saleh, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kuantan. Welcome back to Perception, where we will continue our discussion on why we should stop Lynas with our honourable guest, Yang Berhormat Puan Fuzia Saleh, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Kuantan. YB, environmentalists around the globe are of the view that radioactive waste, be it in air, water or on the ground, is slow but sure genocide, and that the perpetrators should be charged for a crime against humanity. In this case, a crime against the Rakyat of Pahang. Is this view exaggerated, or is it the plain truth of the matter?
It is the truth of the matter, Gilbert. But the issue here is that Lynas is getting away by saying that their waste is not radioactive. Why? Because of the concentration. You see, okay, we have to understand how they define radioactive waste. Radioactive waste is when the part per million or the specific radioactivity is more than a certain limit. The international standards say that it is 1 becquerel per gram in terms of specific radioactivity for a waste to be classified as radioactive. Lynas is claiming that its waste is not radioactive, it is below the limit, because according to the China standards, it is 74 becquerel per gram as the limit. And Lynas is claiming that their waste is at about 61 becquerel per gram, way below the limit as defined by the China standards. So, as thus, it is not radioactive waste in nature. Because it is not radioactive waste in nature, it can be disposed as other forms of waste. You see, this is how Lynas get around the system. International standards say 1 becquerel per gram, which is a far cry from 74 becquerel per gram as stated by China. Where is Malaysia stand? Malaysia does not have that stand. Even though Malaysia say it has stringent laws, but how does it impose that on Lynas? And Lynas is getting away with this. It is out in the RIA report. In the RIA report, even in the input data by Lynas, it says that its waste will be at 61 becquerel per gram. But yet, the government is not doing anything about it. The government is not saying anything about it. And the government is singing to the tune of Lynas by saying that it is normal occurring material, which is thorium. Undoubtedly, it is normal occurring. But then the base measurement for thorium in Pahang is at 0.02 becquerel per gram. How do you account for the cumulative amount of thorium that gets dumped year by year? We have experts calculating the amount. The amount of thorium alone will be 100 plus metric ton per year, and that will be diluted to thousands of tons, just to dilute it to 0.16%. Then it will not be classified as radioactive waste. See, that's how Lynas gets around it, and how the government kowtow or kowtim in a way to Lynas. So, I mean, these are all puzzling things, but I wonder how the government can answer to the rakyat and put on a straight face and say that everything is in order.
YB, could you plainly tell us the dangers of this fatal radioactive health and death threat that Lynas pose to the rakyat of Kuantan and the surrounding areas, given that it will generate 10 times more radioactive waste than Bukit Merah?
Okay, the dangers are many, Gilbert. Let's look at the process of the whole process. The rare earth ore will be mined in Australia, in Perth, in Western Australia. Over there, it will be concentrated in a concentration plant in Mount Well itself. The process of concentration is the process where they clean the ore and they remove the dirt and the soil, up to a 40% concentration of the rare earth in the ore. But the rare earth comes with thorium and uranium embedded in it. After it is being cleaned, after it is concentrated, it will be shipped all the way 4,000 kilometers to Gebeng, to Kuantan port, and then brought to Gebeng. And while it is being processed, it will have to be crushed. It will have to be crushed so that there is a higher surface area, and then it will be treated at high temperature with acid, hydrofluoric acid. This is the danger here, Gilbert, because once it's crushed, it emits fine particulates. When inhaled, these particulates are very dangerous. This is what the Malaysian Medical Association has actually highlighted. The ore on its own is, to an extent, less dangerous compared to the particulates when inhaled, because the ore, as I mentioned earlier, generates alpha. So alpha, it is not as dangerous as uranium, as gamma. So it does not penetrate over a long distance in that sense. But once it is crushed and it is the dust that is being inhaled, then the danger is higher. And then when it goes through the high temperature, it will emit gas, and that gas will come out through the stack. If you remember in the report, IAEA has actually asked AELB to develop a criteria to ensure that the gas does not have radioactive in it. How do you ensure that there is no human error? Because once the gas released into the air has radioactive materials in it, it will go as far as the wind blow. What happens if it gets inhaled? These are real issues that Lynas are not answering, that the government are not answering. Every time the public in Kuantan speaks about it, AELB will come and show their Geiger counter. They will take the ore and then show this is the reading compared to tin ore. And they actually compared that to tin ore and say that tin ore has more, higher radioactive count. But this is a very, very simplistic way of looking at the effect of the rare earth ore, because it's the whole process that we're talking about. So, as I said, Lynas is misleading. The government is singing to their tune. They are not looking for alternative information. They are not doing their research. And they are being the spokesperson for Lynas. And this is very, very upsetting to the people of Kuantan.
YB, given the Bukit Merah debacle, public verdict is that Mahathir is the founding father of radioactive death in Malaysia. What the public cannot fathom is that his political clone, PM Najib, our Mr. Transformer, has the benefit of the Bukit Merah tragedy. Yet he has no qualms of fast-tracking a license to build this debt plant without even informing or consulting the rakyat, making a rubbish out of his rakyat first performance now claim. Could you care to comment?
If you notice, Najib has not made much comment on this issue so far. In fact, he's been very silent on this issue. The only incident when he mentioned was, I remember when he said that we will not sacrifice or we will not compromise the health of the rakyat. That was the only occasion when he commented. Other than that, he has been very quiet. He has left it very much to MITI and very much to MOSTI, AELB specifically. I believe that he may have realized, but it is very difficult for them to retract now, because initially when I raised it up, they dismissed the issue, and they have been so long there, and they have been so used to telling the public something and the public believe them. They have been doing that for 54 years, and they think the public in Kuantan will continue to fall into that cycle, to believe everything that they say. So his spokesperson will be the MB for Pahang, who actually said to the people, I guarantee you that it is safe. I'm sorry. I mean, the time is over. People are beginning to question. It's no longer like what you say is our command. It's no longer that. And I think Najib is worried, but he's not showing it. Whatever it is, Gilbert, Najib can easily migrate. It's the poor people in Kuantan that will have to face that.
YB, is it not true that with the commencement of Lynas operations, it would signal the death knell of Kuantan's vibrant tourism industry as well as its traditional fishing industries? Whatever rationalization you might offer for Najib's non-committal stance on Lynas, is this his bigoted economic transformation program for his home state?
I think they're trying to cover that up. That's why they continue to say that it is safe. Because let's look at it this way. Club Med is just next door to Gebeng. Who in the world would want to go to a radioactive holiday? Can you imagine the tagline? Welcome to Club Med for a radioactive holiday.
Yes.
And then what? It will destroy the tourism industry, and that is an understatement. Actually, it will destroy the whole of our economy, our local economy. We have the local folks selling keropok lekor, and then their life is dependent on that. And ikan bakar for the tourists that will also die a natural death. And not to speak about the fishing industry. Kuantan is one of the biggest fishing ports. We have 390 deep sea trawlers registered in Kuantan itself. And let's look at the process. When the ore is being mixed with the acid, there will be the water leach purification, which will be discharged into the local river, which is the Balut River, which goes into the sea. Some of the uranium will be dissolved at the high temperature in the acid, and some of it will be discharged. Can you imagine the uranium, what effect it will have on the marine life? If you remember Fukushima, when there was a leakage, radioactive material was actually detected in the water, and then it spread as far as California within a week. So if uranium, which have a half-life of billions of years, gets into the water, and it is cumulative, it gets added on and on and on, it will not only destroy the fishing industry of Kuantan, but the whole ASEAN region. Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam will be affected by it. So it's not a small matter, Gilbert. That is why the government, Najib administration is doing everything they can to cover up. As usual in Malaysia, is always cover up, denial, as if there is nothing. So this is happening again with the issue of Lynas.
YB, would you care to share with us? I understand that you have been invited by Siemens to share your protest against the Lynas operation in Kuantan.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that Siemens wants to see you for?
Okay. Siemens has recently signed a letter of intent to have a joint venture with Lynas to construct a high-powered magnet plant, meaning that they will produce magnets, which is high-powered magnets, which they will use for hybrid cars and so on. Siemens is very proud of their image of going green, and as you know, Siemens being German are reversing their policy on nuclear. They are now going into wind energy, and they're very, very sensitive to any criticism about their image of being green. And Germany, being far away from Malaysia, naturally does not really feel the opposition against LAMP in Kuantan. All they get is inputs from Lynas. All they get is all the make-up stories by the Malaysian government. So when I was in Europe recently, I had the backing of the Green Party in Europe, in the European Parliament, as well as the Rare Earth Committee in the European Parliament, plus the business journalists in the local media who are very, very positive in their policies of going green. I mean, they being Germans. So they actually helped me to have a discussion with Siemens, to the effect that Siemens have asked for an appointment to discuss about their intention of a joint venture of Lynas. Of course, I'm forming my team, and we will be putting our presentation to them, explaining to them how their joint venture with Lynas will actually damage their image of being green, and in fact it will damage the whole of Siemens' credibility and credentials as a responsible corporate player.
YB, is stopping Lynas in Kuantan the responsibility of the Rakyat of Kuantan, or is it the responsibility of all Malaysians who cherish a clean environment and desirous of better public health and safety?
It is a responsibility for all.
It is the responsibility.
It is a responsibility for all, not only Malaysians, but everyone, in the world that wants to see the world become a better place. As far as Pakatan Rakyat is concerned, we want to promote sustainable development. We're not against development, as BN would like to project, myself or others who are like-minded as me. We want to promote sustainable development. What is the meaning of sustainable development? Meaning any development that we want to any investment or development that we want to endorse and approve as part of policies must not destroy the environment, as in land. Kuantan itself actually has adopted the local Agenda 21, which we signed the local Agenda 21 in 2001. Meaning to say that we actually have adopted sustainable development as part of our development program. Sustainable development, mind you, Gilbert, actually requires that there should be public consultation before any big project such as LAMP is being started. However, that phase was actually omitted. There was no such thing. In fact, if I had not made an issue of Lynas, that plant would have just choo-choo its way and then goes into production without anyone even realizing it. And I think that was the original plan of the BN government. And and Lynas too thought they could get away with it by giving all the misleading data. I think Lynas must be cursing themselves that they find an MP such as myself really opposing them in Kuantan and rallying the people against them. And too bad. They can fool some people, but they cannot fool everyone.
YB, Time is fast running out for the riot of Kuantan because Lynas and UMNO BN is determined to commence operations after Hari Raya. Public perception is that just as simultaneous Bersih rallies were held at home and around the globe, should we organize a Stop Lynas rally of a similar nature to stop this fatal and evil intent of Lynas and UMNO BN to transform Kuantan into a radioactive dump?
When the time comes, we will have to do that. But for now, we still have to continue to educate the public. Because Gilbert, we have a lot of difficulties educating the public with regards to radioactive. The public they can understand what is chemical, they can understand what is toxic, but they have difficulty understanding what is radioactive. And the government is doing their part to mislead the people. They're being the spokesmen for Lynas. They can't understand, and it does not sink into their head that we are not against the government in this case. We are actually against Lynas. But because the government is taking side with Lynas, that's why they are being pulled down together with Lynas. Actually, if the government are smart enough, which I don't think they can rise up to that, if they're smart enough, they would have engaged with the people early on. They would have consulted the public. Even when there was an outcry early in the year, they should have continued to consult, which they didn't. Lynas admitted that they didn't consult with the public and that they wanted to engage, but still they didn't. So you see, it is sheer arrogance, it is stupidity. The time will come, when the public will rise up, and even you see mothers living around that area, they say if they have to sit in, they will sit in. It is for their children, it is for the future of their generation, and you can see the sentiments is so high. But when the time comes, for now, we will continue to educate and we will continue to create awareness.
YB, I sincerely thank you on behalf of TV Pass for being with us on this edition of Perception.
Okay, thank you.
To our respected audience, I thank you for being with us throughout this discussion. Wherever you may be, I wish you a pleasant weekend and a productive week ahead. On behalf of the production crew of Perception, I wish all Malaysians Hidup Raya, Hidup Pakatan Raya.